I don't know, we're not allowed that. What is that on the screen? Whatever that is, telling me.
Yeah, they need to take that off.
No.
That's probably going to be his sister or sister-in-law, either
Oh,
Jennifer.
yes. Jody?
The Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 9:40. Our next case is Mr. Jamie Rymel. Sir, would you please give us your full name and DLC number? You're on mute. Can you unmute yourself, or can you get someone there to unmute you?
My name is Jamie Dwayne Rymel. My DOC number is 750040.
Thank you, Mr. Rymel. Let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow the participants who've indicated they wish to have input to speak. Here today on your behalf is your sister-in-law, Jody Lynn Richard Rymel, and your sister, Jennifer David or David. I'm not sure exactly how she pronounces it. At the end of that, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement to the board, and then we'll vote. You understand our procedure?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Jamie D. Rymel, DOC number 750040, date of birth May the 1st of 1984. It's classified as a first felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of March the 30th of 2023. He is not eligible to earn good time, and he has a full term date of December the 1st of 2029. He is currently serving a 10-year sentence on the charge of carnal knowledge of a juvenile. Mr. Rymel, is that information accurate?
Yes, sir.
Your case has been, this case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. She'll begin our interview process. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Rymel.
How are you?
I'm fine, and yourself?
I'm okay.
How old are you, Mr. Rymel?
38.
And how long have you been incarcerated?
Since April 16, 2019.
How long is that?
Around four and a half years.
Okay. Have you been housed at your current facility the whole time?
Yes, ma'am.
You're classified as a first felony offender. You're alleged to have engaged in sexual contact with a child of 12, and that sexual contact is alleged to have occurred over a number of years. So how old were you when this contact with the victim began?
I do not remember, ma'am.
Well, fine, you should know.
Like 33, maybe 32, 33.
And how did you know this young lady?
She was some friends who were staying at our house. It was her sister.
Okay, so, say that again, explain that to me again.
Friend who was staying at our house temporarily. It was her sister.
Whose home was it?
Me, my friend Miss Melissa Green, and her husband, Daniel.
I don't need the last name. So you and a couple were staying together in a residence, is that correct?
Yes.
And you all were roommates,
Yes.
and you were paying rent to somebody, correct?
Yes.
All right, so tell me again how the victim came to live in that household.
Could you repeat that?
Tell me how the victim came to be living in that residence.
Her sister and her husband was staying over there and she came to visit.
When you say they were staying over there,
Yes.
is that the same couple?
Currently-
Is that the same couple you referred to?
What's that, ma'am?
Was that the same couple that you said you were roommates with?
No, ma'am.
So her sister and her sister's husband moved into the residence?
No, ma'am. Melissa Green's, daughter's father, they had lost their home and they came to stay with us for a couple weeks while they got a new place to live.
Okay, so, and the victim was her daughter, Melissa's daughter.
No, the victim was, Dustin Hall's wife's little sister.
Who is Dustin Hall?
Melissa Green's, the father of Melissa Green's daughter.
You understand?
You're the father of Melissa Green's,
Melissa Green was my, roommate.
Okay,
her baby daddy, sister.
okay. So they only stayed with you all a couple of weeks?
That's whenever I first met them. Nothing happened at that point. That's how I first met them.
Well, how did, the victim come to be living in that home?
She came to be living in the home whenever she had asked her dad if she could move there so that she could go to school in Hawk.
Okay. And how old was she? What grade was she in?
She was in high school, like 15, maybe.
I doubt it. Mr. Rymel, it's alleged that the sexual contact between you and the victim began right after she made 12 years old.
From what I understand is she was in high school.
You lived in the same residence with her, correct?
Yes,
You knew she was getting on the bus going to school somewhere, correct?
yes.
And you had no idea where she was going to school?
Houghton High School.
12, is it K through 12?
What, ma'am?
Is the school K through 12?
Houghton High School is, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, ma'am.
So. So your contention is you had no idea that this little girl was 12, 13 years of age when you began sexual relationship with her.
No, ma'am.
You were clueless about that.
I did not know she was 12 if she was 12, ma'am.
So now you're saying she wasn't 12.
I do not, from what I know, she was in high school. That's all I know. She was going to, Houghton High School. That's why she asked if she could live there, so she could go to high school, or so she could go to school in Houghton.
And so how did you start having sex with this young girl?
I was having a bad day and I came home drunk and things kind of happened.
No. Things don't just happen.
I know I made a huge mistake with it, ma'am.
What did you do?
She came on to me and I kind of went with it.
So 12, 13, even 15-year-old came on to you, a man in your 30s, and you, I think in your statement to probation and parole, you said she basically molested you. Those were your words, not mine. And you're sticking with that today?
No, because I feel like I made some major mistakes in those, in all of this, and
Well, what mistake did you make?
I can't blame what I did on her.
You just did.
N-
That's what you did in your statement to probation and parole. That, she came on to you, took advantage of your intoxication, and then threatened to tell people if you didn't keep having sex with them.
yes, that did happen, ma'am.
Okay, so you are blaming her.
No, I'm not blaming her for it happening in the beginning, no, ma'am.
So tell me, what programs have you completed?
I have completed the SO program, all 4 phases, as well as,
Okay, let's stop right there. You've taken all 4 phases of sex offender treatment, correct?
ma'am,
Tell me what you got out of that. What you
uh,
learned.
I learned how to pretty much notice whenever I get in a situation where I can make a mistake like this and how to avoid it.
So,
I learned, pretty much, I learned how to recognize all triggers that goes along with it, and how to recognize whenever I'm in a bad situation and whenever I need to step back, or maybe even call somebody so that I'm not alone.
well, what did you learn about the impact of sex offenses on the victim?
I learned that it can be very devastating to me, and that it's, no matter what, it should never be done.
So how do you think your actions affected, the victim in this case?
I'm pretty sure she's probably got some scars.
Why would she have scars if she was the one who initiated the conduct, perpetuated the conduct, used the conduct to threaten you? Why would she have scars if that's what happened?
Because it was, the whole situation, in the end, it was not a good situation at all.
You also took, substance abuse treatment,
Yes, ma'am.
and what was that addressing? What were your substance abuse issues?
Well, I always liked to drink, and I used to smoke a lot of weed, but I quit doing that whenever I decided.
Marijuana- Was marijuana the only drug that you
What's
used?
that?
What other drugs did you use besides marijuana,
Narcotics,
such as?
Elavil, lower tab tins usually, somas a couple times.
Why were you using those drugs?
Just to get high.
Okay. Were you employed?
What's that, ma'am?
Were you employed
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, I was always employed.
as what?
I did landscaping for many years, and currently, before I came to jail, I am a Class A CDL truck driver.
Why I couldn't hear you.
I'm a Class A CDL truck driver. I work for Eagle Distributing, delivering gear.
And how long had you been working as a truck driver prior to your arrest?
3 years before, 2 years.
Did they require drug tests?
Yes, ma'am. I quit doing drugs so that I could drive.
What's your job at the prison? Or do you have,
I bump my wife support, man.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. The reception is kind of bad.
I bump and wife support.
Are you a trustee?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been a trustee?
2020.
You have a moderate, I'm sorry, no. You have a low risk. You applied for an interstate compact to Texas. Tell us about that.
After my mom died, most of my family is in Texas. And where I really like to be is with my family.
Okay, has that compact been approved?
I have not, it has not been approved yet. I just started it.
And what would you do there?
In the little town of Crosbyton, I was hoping to get a job at the cotton mill to start until I get my CDL back on track. And then I was,
Would you be living with?
my dad,
Who else lives in that household?
my dad's wife.
Any children in the household?
No, ma'am.
Any grandchildren?
No, ma'am.
Not necessarily living in the household, but are there grandchildren?
No, ma'am.
Nieces and nieces
My
and,
brother,
go ahead.
daughters, but they live with him.
How old are they?
15 and 13, I think.
Is there anyone from the facility in the room with you, Mr. Ramel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, may I speak to that person? Hello, how are you?
Hello, good morning, how are you?
I'm good. You know anything about Mr. Ramel?
As disciplinary officer, it's a good thing that I don't know anyone. Luckily, Mr. has not come across my desk, and he's been a trustee, for the past couple of years. We have not had any issues with Mr. Ramel.
Okay. Well, no news is good news, Mr. Ramel. Mr. Ramel, that's all I have.
Now we'll hear from your supporters. Your sister-in-law, Jody Lynn Richard Renell. Sheila?
I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know?
My name's Jody Lynn, Ramel, Richard's my maiden name. I was hoping you will ask me questions. I don't know what I'm supposed to really say. I live in
Ma'am,
Covington.
let me simply say this. You are here, as I understand it, to support Mr. Jamie Ramel. So we're interested in listening to whatever you have. I would appreciate you taking that emoji off the screen. That's not something appropriate for this hearing.
It just came back on. I'm trying to figure out how to get, I'm not computer savvy. There we go. Wait.
Oh.
How do you turn this thing off? Did it come off?
No, ma'am.
There we go. Okay. Jamie is my brother-in-law. I've been knowing him for like 15 years. He's a good man. He's always been a good uncle to my girls. They adore him. He's dependable, from our standpoint. He's very dependable. He always had a job. We lived with, I guess, all roommated together for a couple years when we lived in Bossier. all I can tell you is he's a good man.
Okay.
He's trustworthy with my girls. I mean, there's nobody else I would trust more than him whenever it came to my children. As a uncle, so
Well, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. We'll now hear from Ms. Jennifer David or David. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correct. Are you on, ma'am?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Hello. So Jamie is my brother. I am the other address that if he is released, that he would be living with if he can't get the interstate compact. I believe that he is ready to be released. I'm not really. I think that we were both under the impression that we were supposed to get questions, and so I apologize that I don't have a speech prepared. I think that Jamie lived with me for a long time. Me and Jamie roommated for a long time. And I believe that for many years, Jamie lived a very sensible, normal life. And I believe that there was probably a 2-year period to where he moved out and he roommated with some other people and he went down a negative path. And he didn't stay on it for very long. He got a CDL and he went back to just the norm that our family lives, the standards that our family lives by. And he he's living the consequences of his actions for that period. And I don't fault that, but I do think that at this point he has paid for his consequences and he should be released. And he would, if this interstate compact is approved, he would be released to live with my father. My father was a preacher for many years. We come from a good family. And I would like to see him return to.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Ronell, is there anything you'd like to say before the panel votes?
No, sir.
Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Ramel, this case is very troubling for me. I don't feel like you've been really candid with this forward. This was a 12-year-old girl who had just turned 12. You engaged in sexual conduct with her over the course of a number of years. And while you say the words that you're remorseful or you regret your actions, you really have to take responsibility for your actions. You're describing this 12-year-old as some seductress, some, manipulator who, forced herself on you and then tried to blackmail you and you were powerless to do anything about it. That shows me that you really haven't come to terms with what you actually did, the consequences that those actions had for the victim in this case. And even though you've gone through the sex offender treatment, what you got out of it is what it can do to help you not get caught up. But I don't think it helped you address what was it about you that would cause you to commit this crime against this young girl, and more importantly, how devastating that had to be for somebody that age to be in a sexual relationship with a man that was much older than her. And I do not believe that you were not aware that this girl was not 15 or 16 years old. Physically, there's a lot of difference between a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, and 15 or 16-year-old. So I think you have some more work to do, Mr. Ramel. I don't think you're ready yet. I'm going to suggest that you, I don't know whether victim awareness that would help, but you need to find out what it was that would cause you or allow you to commit this kind of crime and to own up to it and accept responsibility. I don't think you've done that today. And so my vote today is to deny.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Rennell, I was really hoping that your interview would have went differently this morning. And I recognize, it's just me putting it out there, and you had your sisters and your sister-in-law listening, you were a little guarded about sharing, but they love you, they're here to support you regardless of what you did. So go ahead and own it. They are here because they are for you. And I think today you didn't want to, you weren't honest with us. And that's what we need to see so that you can be successful when you go on the outside. So I concur with Ms. Jackson, and I hope you took down advisement and reapply for your elder. My vote is to deny as well.
Mr. Ramel, you have 2 votes to deny your parole. I agree with my colleagues. I hope you heed their advice. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Is this the last one at motion? We'll adjourn.
Another cockroach. Another cockroach. And the things that this cockroach says, you just wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it. And it's not just him. It's his sister and it's his sister-in-law that come on, and you realize that there is something very wrong. His sister-in-law actually states on the record, showing up in that robot thing, which is just absolutely, it would have been hilarious if it wasn't such a serious scenario that we're covering. She says, I would not want anyone, where's the exact words? Let me quote the exact words so I'm not putting words in her mouth. All I can tell you is that he is a good man. There is no one else that I would trust more with my children. And then she says, as an uncle. Really, lady? Are you nuts? Did you not just hear what he said? He comes up at his parole hearing and he says that she came onto him. She tells the parole, not the board, the pre-sentencing that he has to go through where he gets interviewed, and it probably happened just like a month ago or so, and he tells them that he was molested by her. There's no one else you would trust more with your children? He's not even a blood relative. Are you kidding me? Wake up! Uncles are harming children every day, all around the world. You should always be cautious. This man actually did. And then you wouldn't trust anyone more with your children? You need to be checked. He had a bad day, so he came home drunk. Then she came on to me, and I went with it. Then I continued going with it because she threatened she would tell the cops. This is what he's telling the... It's not my day. My microphone, it's going in and out. It's very frustrating. I'm not in my typical place. It's the summer. I'm traveling. I'm moving. There was a flood. Like, it's just... I'm going camping. I'm leaving camping in a little bit, but I heard this and I had to record it because this is absolutely madness. It's madness. It's insane. She was 12 years old. He comes up pretending that he doesn't know how old she was. She was in high school. Like it would have even made a difference. Cockroach. You don't belong among us. You belong locked up. He's only served 4.5 years on a 10-year sentence. He only got a 10-year sentence. Where was the assistant DA to show up to keep this cockroach locked up? Where were anyone that was advocating for the cockroach to be locked up? Everyone in that home that he was doing this should be investigated. To believe that this went on for multiple years without them knowing. And you know what? Google it. Nothing comes up. Nothing, because no one cares. It's just a child. I was basically molested by her. Yeah, you were molested by a 12-year-old girl. You were oh so terrified of her. Miss Jackson said it best. And the funny thing, you want to add insult to injury? The prison system that we're supposed to trust to keep our community safe, when they evaluated him, the same people that interviewed him when he said that she came onto him, that he was basically molested by her, they gave him a low risk score. Yeah. He has a low risk score of re-offending. And 99.9% of cockroaches that we see in these hearings also have a low risk score. That's insane. What is more frustrating than seeing something that is clearly nuts being used as the vehicle to gauge inmates prosecuted guilty who they're using this as the assessment of whether or not they should be released early into society. That's crazy. You can't make it up. It's now available for the whole world to see. I want to sit down across someone who said, low assessment, and say, why? Tell me why. What's a medium assessment? What's a high risk assessment? He hasn't even admitted what he's done is wrong. He believes. He says at the hearings, he says at the assessment board, he even, usually they're more manipulative. Usually they're more clever. He thought he was being so manipulative and clever by lying about her age, by still insisting at his own parole board that she was 15, not 12. Oh, you're much better. But she must have been in high school. I don't know. That was his greatness at manipulation. And you saw his standoffness. You saw his attitude. You saw even his anger. This is when he's supposed to be his most behaved. And this was as good as he could have done. Low risk assessment. And these are the people that are supposed to be our leaders. It's nuts. I bet you the people who created it have some PhDs from some Ivy League school somewhere creating these assessment scores when all you need is common sense. Then his plan is to go live in Texas, which, by the way, they send so many of these criminals to Texas. In Texas, you better watch out. And people in Texas should better be aware of this because they often do send them. If you're getting out of Louisiana, we don't care about the children in Texas either. He was going to be sent to a home. gosh. And I just got a new wire. This is the second. I need to buy a whole new microphone. He was just sent to a home. He was going to be sent to his father's home. When the parole board, thankfully, they had to ask him. You would think that they would have. And from what I heard, his father has his brother's kids, who's 15 and 13 years old. These are the age of the victim that he just finished victimizing. And that was going to be a good idea for him to go to? That was the home he selected? His father would think that's okay? The sister says, we grew up in a good home. My father was a preacher. I'm sorry, it's sad to say this, but that's a detractor in this conversation right now. I'm sorry to say it. Most preachers are great people, but let's just be on the context that we have, that a lot of them should be locked up for doing what his son did. And even the idea that he would accept him home while he's watching his brother's child of 15 and 13, there's a judgment issue here. You want to see more of the judgment issue with what his sister says? I believe that he is living with the consequences of his actions. I believe that he's paid for his actions. And he should be returned home. Really? You think 4.5 years for doing this to a child at 12 for multiple years? Who knows how often? Maybe every day, year, week after week, month after month, year after year. You think that 4.5 years he's paid for his actions? Not to mention that he shows up at his hearing and denies any culpability in his actions. You think he should be let free? You think he should be living with his nephew and nieces of the same age of the child that he was literally... Then Miss Wise comes on and tries to like make an excuse for him. I can tell you were guarded because of they were on, and don't make excuses for him. What do you mean guarded? He wasn't guarded. He came on and lied. They know why he's in prison. He came on, not lied. He came on and said that she came on to him. When no one was watching, he told the assessment board that he was molested. What does this have to do with them watching? Now, I think because of the new law that's passed, he's going to have to wait 5 more years before he reapplies. It's something they pass for these type of situations so that the victim doesn't need to go through it every year or 2 years of a parole hearing. So by the time he gets up, he's going to be at 9.5 years or so. And yeah, he'll probably end up doing his full sentence. And then what? Then he moves back with his dad and those children. Well, they'll be older by then, so probably they'll be a little bit too old for his liking. So they should be safe. But other children, with his job, he wanted to... People, you got to do your homework. You got to find out who you're living around, because they live amongst us. But this is why we do these hearings. We got to call it out for what it is. If it wasn't aired, we wouldn't know. We'd all be living with our heads in the sand, expecting or thinking or believing that the people in these positions of power are out with our best interest. Low assessment score. No one's going to lose a job over that either. They'll probably get promoted. But who knows how long this score thing is going to stay in existence. But maybe it will change. Maybe someone will see this and it will change. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. Do you want to do another hearing? I'm pretty angry, but there's another one. It's a double hearing. It's also frustrating, but there's two. There's two. There's one that's it's you know what? Let's do it. We'll do it back to back, and let's see.
The committee on parole is called back to order. The time is 1:41. Our next case is Mr. Marvin Wiley. Mr. Wiley, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Marvin Wiley, 294-297.
Thank you, Mr. Wiley. Mr. Wiley, let me explain our procedure to you. Process, first, I'm going to read some information into the record, then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand our procedure, sir?
Yes, sir.
This is a matter of Marvin Wiley, DOC number 294-297, date of birth July 6th of 1966. He's classified as a fifth felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of February the 6th of 2018. He's not entitled to good time. He is serving a life sentence on the charge of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and racketeering, having been adjudicated as a habitual offender. Mr. Wiley, is that information accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wiley, your case was assigned to me, so I'll be the one initiating our interview process. How old are you, Mr. Wiley?
57,
And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
24 years, sir.
How long have you spent in prison altogether besides this 24-year stint?
Traveling back in the time or just on this
Right.
charge?
Right, altogether.
Uh,
57 years. How many years you been in prison?
Traveling back in time. Oh, traveling back. Probably half of my life, sir.
All right. Tell me about, so how old were you when you came to prison on these charges?
About 30, 35, 33 years old.
Let's talk about you at 35 years old. Tell me a little bit about your education back then.
I finished like 11th grade.
Drugs or alcohol involved in any of this?
Off and on, yes, sir.
Let's talk about drugs first. When did you first start using drugs and what drugs did you first start using?
Marijuana, majority of my life is marijuana.
How old were you when you first started?
13.
And how often were you smoking marijuana at 13?
Occasionally off and on.
And did you progress to more frequent use, daily use? Did you ever get to the point where you're using pretty much every day?
Yes, sir.
And when was that? How old were you then?
17, 18.
And were you using marijuana or how about cocaine? You ever use anything besides marijuana?
Off and on, I use cocaine, but majority of the time it was marijuana.
How about alcohol?
Daily. I use alcohol.
Alcohol was daily?
Yes, sir.
Would you drink basically?
Malt liquor.
Alcohol and drugs were involved in most of your arrests, most of your crimes?
Yes, sir.
So tell me why you're in prison now. Tell me about these racketeering charges.
Well, drug
I've
racketeering.
read all of the police reports.
Yes, sir.
Today is the day for you for me to determine how honest you're going to be with us, okay? So tell me what you were doing back then.
Well, I was getting drugs from a friend in California, and I was paying young ladies to traffic them down in Louisiana.
How often were you doing this and how long did you do it?
I did it over a year and a half.
We're talking about a substantial amount of money, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
Over $100,000?
Yes, sir. It was being contributed amongst quite a few people.
So what got you into that? How did you get into that?
Gambling, trying to have a place to stay, getting high, using drugs.
Did you ever have a real job?
I had off and on little small odd jobs,
What sort of jobs?
mechanic, little mechanic work, helping on, I worked on low riders.
Tell me a little bit about what you've done while you've been in prison in the last 24 years. What have you learned? How have you changed, if any?
Well, I started taking classes. I've been taking program, living in balanced substance abuse.
How will you stay sober if you get out of prison?
Well, I'm matured from that now, so I'm not off into the drug life like I once was. I don't start studying and to change my habits. I got into religion.
Well, what's your plan to stay sober? I mean, you smoked marijuana pretty much your entire life when you were on the outside. So tell me what's your plan to make sure that you stay sober?
Well, I'm gonna stay away from that type of lifestyle. I'm not even gonna go off into that lifestyle where nobody can be influencing me to want to get high. Trying to work, try to get myself together, try to rebuild my life.
What triggers you to use drugs?
Partying, hanging out, having too much spare time on my hands.
What programs have you taken, substance abuse programs have you taken while you've been in prison?
Living in balance.
What else?
Excuse me.
What else besides living in balance?
A victim awareness.
Have you had any inpatient treatment or long-term drug treatment?
No, sir.
You think that's something you might be able to benefit from?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about your write-ups. You've had 90 write-ups, 5 in the last few years. Fighting, aggravated sex offense, contraband. Tell me about the contraband. Tell me about the fighting. Tell me why so many write-ups.
Well, being in Angola, I'm from out of town, so I'm always being victimized.
What was the contraband you had?
I think I had some marijuana at that time.
Okay. And that was within the last couple of years.
Yes, sir.
I thought you gave up the drug lifestyle. You don't need it no more.
Well, I wasn't using that actually to get high. I was using that to eat and live. I wasn't getting no money from the streets, so I did what I had to do to survive in Angola at the time.
What is your transition plan? Where would you live if you were to get out?
Well, I'd like to go back to Houma. I had somebody that was going to give me a job. Jody Davis and Joanne Davis is on a construction company. They was planning on giving me a job. I thought they was going to be here today.
Tell me how you've changed from the person that came to jail till today.
Well, when I first came to jail, I was hard-headed. I was just running around with a chip on my shoulder. Over the years, I studied, got myself together psychologically and mentally. So I don't want to live the second half of my life like I lived the first half of my life, sir.
Well, Mr. Wiley, I'm gonna go back to your write-ups. In the last few years, your last 5 write-ups have been basically about disobedience and defiance. How has that changed? I mean, it looks like you're still getting in trouble. You've been in prison for 24 years, you said. Yet in the last 3 or 4 years, you've had write-ups that involve fighting, aggravated work offense, defiance, aggravated disobedience. How do you explain it?
I made some bad choices. I was hanging around some bad influences then when I was in the penitentiary.
We're talking about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes,
You're
sir.
still doing the same thing you were doing before. So how have you changed?
Well, see, when I came over here, I got my act together. I separated myself from a lot of people that was causing me a lot of problems, and I was able to function.
And how long have you been where you are now?
Over a year.
And when did you get there? Because your last write-up was in June of last year. Where did you get that at? Where was that write-up?
In Angola.
Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Wiley?
Mr. Marabella, he came here in August of 2022, so it's almost been a year since he's been here. He hasn't had any write-ups since he's been here. He's living in medium custody and I'm sorry, the last write-up he had, that Jim write-up, was while he was still there at Louisiana State Penitentiary. He's so really, I can't tell you a lot about him other than what his record has from the years that he's been incarcerated at LSP, because he hadn't been here long enough to get involved in a lot of things, a lot of activities. But he hadn't been any problem whatsoever. He's been write-up free the entire time he's been here. He hasn't caused security or classification or any staff, any problems at all. He's got a good, clean record over the last 11 months at this institution.
Thanks, Warden. That's all the questions I have. Anybody else? Mr. Wiley, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
Yes, sir. I wrote a little statement, but I can't.
You can read it, or you can tell us anything you'd like. Go ahead.
First, I would like to apologize to the state of Louisiana, in particular the city of Homer, for trafficking drugs into their community and selling drugs on their city streets. It took me years to accept responsibility for my actions. But after seeing drug overdoses in America and witnessing drug overdoses in Angola, I realized I had to stop being a part of the problem and find ways to help be a part of the solution. So when I'm not working, and I attend a campaign against the use of fentanyl and many other designer drugs that's been eating away at the fabric of our society. My goal is to start a program entitled Futures Not Funerals, which would be working towards resurrecting young youth and the following victims of dangerous drugs, lecturing them to help them solve differences and resulting from violence.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Wiley, you've got a pretty significant criminal history. Your crimes are pretty significant. You've spent, as you've indicated, half your life in prison. I think you're on the right track. I think you're moving in the right direction. You have been write-up free since you've been there at Wade. That's a good thing. But your record before that is horrible. You've had 90 write-ups. You've had a number of them recently, including marijuana. You've got a significant drug addiction. I think you've taken a little bit of classes. I think you need more. I think you need some more substance abuse classes. I think you need to learn a little bit more about what you've done and how you'll stay sober when you get out. You are moving in the right direction. The warden's giving you some excellent comments about your time there. It hadn't been very long. But before I can vote to let you, to parole you, I'm gonna have to see a longer time with no disciplinary write-ups, and I'd love to see you get into some programs that'll give you some tools to be able to stay clean and sober. Take AA, NA programs, learn the 12 steps, so when you get out, you can be proactive to make sure you don't go back to that lifestyle. My vote today would be to deny, but encourage you to continue to move forward as you're doing now. You're in a good place now, and I hope you continue to flourish where you are. That's my vote. Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Wiley, I agree with my colleague. You're starting the turnaround, but you've got to demonstrate a longer period of time of being write-up free. Yeah, I was really disappointed to see that your most recent program was in 2014.
Yeah.
So, for almost 10 years, you've not engaged in any kind of programs that would, help you become more productive. I just think you have some more work to do. So my vote today is deny because of your disciplinary record and your lack of programming.
Thank you. Ms. Wiley?
Mr. Wiley, I really appreciate what you wrote in your statement, and I hope you mean that. And you apologize to the community for the drug trafficking that you did. That's highly commendable. I applaud you for that. But today, my vote is the same. Take advantage of the programs there. You got a new start. Just take advantage of it. Really grow yourself. My vote is the same for the same reason. Best wishes to you. And reapply when you have.
Okay. Mr. Wiley, your parole has been denied, but I think everyone is encouraging you to continue to do the things you're doing. You're in a good place right now, so continue the hard work, and perhaps the next time the vote might be a little different. Warden, thank you very much for your help. We will be adjourned at 1:57.
Say, Mr. Marabella, what about Slaughter? Are we gonna hear Slaughter? He was an administrative hearing. We've had him up here all day. He was, somebody y'all granted parole, but then his residence plan never got approved, and I think it's been several months since he was granted. He was on the docket for today. I just need to know if you're gonna hear him or not.
We didn't have him on our docket. That was the problem.
Slaughter?
Austin. Of Austin Slaughter, the one we talked about.
Oh, that's a different one?
No, that's.
Same one?
He's on the docket. No, he's on DocuSign, but he's not in the hearing now. When you go to, where's that?
She's got it.
Yeah, just not good.
She's got it.
Well, just, okay.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he's been on the docket off and on. I've been seeing his name pop up on the docket. It's Austin Slaughter, is DOC number 627828.
He is in.
No,
It's true.
Give us a minute.
Yes, ma'am. He's available if you're gonna hear him. He is here to be heard. So we got him waiting. If y'all are gonna hear him.
He has been on and off, and he's a cockroach. He's a cockroach.
You know why we didn't finish celebrating the company? Why we didn't finish when we spoke to this
It was a resident. You proved it was a resident.
Oh, it was the residents.
It was a
Because he's
resident.
a sex offender. Yeah.
Right.
I think he's established or requested a different residence other than the one that wasn't approved. He's been working through classification to get a different residence, and I think it's been set up. I don't know if the parole office has ever approved it yet or not, but I know he's established a new residence plan.
The housing that they have is specific to sex.
Either in Alexandria and
He's a cockroach convicted of incest. So he was denied his residence plan. Which,
Hear it?
Make sure he's in doctor's son.
I didn't hear what you said, Mr. Marabella. We're gonna
Oh,
hear
I'm
him.
sorry. Warden, if you can get him in, we'll go ahead and hear him.
Okay, yes, we have him ready. He'll be right in.
he was 19 at the time. With a female relative.
Okay,
Oh,
Mr.
there
Slaughter,
it
would
is.
you give us your full name and DOC number?
Austin Ray Slaughter, 627-828.
Mr. Slaughter, you were, well, let me explain what we're gonna do today. It's my understanding that, we had conditionally granted your parole, to do certain things. Did you finish Celebrate Recovery?
Yes, sir. I have the certificate right here.
As I understand it, one of the problems or the problem that you had not being able to complete everything that was required of you within 9 months is that they did not approve your residency plan. Is that what is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you worked with probation and parole to try to secure a legitimate, place to stay that would meet the sex offender requirements?
Yes, sir. The Lighthouse Home Rentals in Shreveport.
Now, what have you done? Tell me what you've done since June the 10th of 2022. Have you had any disciplinary write-ups at all?
No, sir.
Have you completed Celebrate Recovery? What else have you done since since the last hearing?
I finished victims awareness, reentry, and living in balance.
Okay, since your last hearing?
Yes, sir.
Now, your dad is here with us. Does your dad have any information with regards to where you're gonna be living? He's not here with us, but he's on Zoom, I think.
Yes, sir. He's the one that helped me secure the apartment.
He's the one that's helped you secure the apartment? Okay, well, why don't we hear from Mr. Slaughter? Mr. Thomas Slaughter, are you there, sir? He's connecting. Gordon, while we're trying to get Mr. Slaughter on, do you have any information as to where, whether or not, they have approved his new residence?
Sister Warden Kimball, can speak on that, Mr. Marabella. He's been working on this case, so go ahead.
Chairman, this particular apartment complex is specifically for sex offenders. We still do need, if he's approved this residence, we still do need to go through the process of having P&P out there to give us the thumbs up on it. But I don't see any issue with it not gaining that approval.
So to answer your question, it has not been officially approved, but it's a residence for sex offenders, and I don't think there's been a problem in the past, so I don't foresee it being not approved. And the address that he had with his father, I think there was an issue with he had too many dogs, or he had some biting dogs, and the parole officer couldn't actually inspect it, so that's why that resident wasn't approved. But Austin Slaughter has completed everything at the institution. He's maintained a good conduct record. So he just needs a residence, and we think we found a residence for him.
Good. Well, the residence that y'all are looking at, that we're talking about today, fits all of the sex offender requirements. It's just whether or not the formality of having him approved to go there is what we're talking
Yes, sir, that's correct.
about. Okay, all right. I see your dad is on the line, Mr. Slaughter. You're welcome to say whatever you'd like to say, but I think the board is probably going to go ahead and grant his parole conditioned upon him getting into this facility that we're talking about today. But we're certainly willing to listen to anything you might have to say. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I had it on mute. I apologize. No, I don't have nothing to say. I just appreciate y'all getting things worked out for this, and it's been a little frustrating at first, but we appreciate it. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Pam, ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll vote to conditionally approve Mr. Slaughter's parole, conditioned upon him being approved for residency. I'm not sure exactly where it is. The warden knows where it is, but the residence that they're talking about right now that meets the sex offender requirements. That would be my vote. With the same, what were our other conditions?
I think 3 times a week.
AA 3 times a week. Okay, all right. Ms. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Slaughter, in view of the fact that you got 3 favorable votes at the last hearing, based on positive remarks and good conduct, my vote today would be to grant conditionally upon an approved residence that meets the sex offender requirements.
And so I'll vote the same for the same reasons. Best wishes to you.
Good luck to you, Mr. Slaughter. The board has granted your parole conditioned upon your getting into this facility.
Thank y'all.
Good luck to you. Warden,
you.
thank you so much again for your help. And
Yes, sir.
I don't know if we'll see you next time. When are you leaving?
You probably won't see me next time.
Well, enjoy life.
Thank you, sir.
The best is yet.
Guys, Ms. Jackson, y'all have a great day.
Okay.
207.
Another cockroach. Actually, it's like I forgot about the previous case, but I think it's an interesting contrast that here you have it, a cockroach who committed incest with an underage relative gets out of prison because he finishes some programs, while the man who's convicted of dealing or whatever has to serve more time, right? But that's our system. That's our system for you. And we can go into details of both cases, but maybe I can start with our, he looks like a classic cockroach too. So, you know, there's not a lot of information on it. I didn't cover the case, recorded it, or see it in June of last year. I wasn't doing it yet. I was like kind of just starting to do it, to watch it, but not recording. Let me pull it up here. I have it up on my other computer, but not this one. I don't know if you guys hear the sound here. But we'll also look at where he's staying. I think there's one thing I'm happy about. It's that he's staying in a house in a residence with a bunch of other sex offenders. That sounds great. They should all be required by law to go to that place if they ever get out. Can you imagine you can just move into any place you want? He was going to move into his father's house. That's the funniest thing too. But the dogs and biting dogs and barking dogs and the parole officer didn't. The parole officer didn't feel good about it. I bet you before the parole officer came, the dad is like, you know, I can imagine it. He's like, go get him, boys. So he didn't want his. He wants his cockroach son coming to live with him. Waste of space. Remember, it was incest he did too. He didn't only commit this on a child, but he did it to his own flesh and blood. And he only got a 10-year sentence. 10 years. What the hell? Oh, the guy, he was conspiracy, possession, distribution, life sentence. Okay, yeah, 10 years. And get out early. He got parole. Freaking believable. You just have to complete these programs, and then you're good to go. Sorry for the mockery, but it is a mockery of our of what we watch is a mockery of how we protect our children. It's a mockery of how we view law and order in this country. It's insane. You know, I was thinking to edit it and create this its own, but it's better to see the prior case. Yeah, he's got all these write-ups and all these things, but so what? He was sentenced to 10 years at hard labor with credit for time served on March 12, 2015. And so this is his he filed an appeal, of course, because, 10 years is way too harsh of a sentence. Due to the lack of case awareness, let me see. So he filed, these are all the reasons that he filed why he should, not have gotten this terrible sentence of 10 years. In response, the state contends, where is it? Here's what I'm, sorry, I'm just going to share with you that here it is. This is the classic, the whole thing can last like a minute. He gets in front of the judge. The prosecutor says, this is what we would recommend. This is a plea deal. The judge says, okay, let me ask you the questions. Are you sober? Are you on anything? No, sir. How old are you? 19. How far have you gone in school? Graduated 12th grade. Yes. Can you read and write? Yes. Have you spoken to the lawyer? Yes. Are you satisfied? Yes. The charge you are pleading guilty to is said to have occurred on Bossier. I know I pronounce it wrong, and then the locals call me out on it, and fair enough, I'm not from New Orleans. On or about May 9th, 2014, and it said that you had committed the crime of aggravated incest with a person whose initials are SS and whose date of birth is August 25th, 2000. So do you understand what it is you are pleading guilty to? So if they were born in 2000, and this is 2014, they were 14 years old. So it was 14-year-old relative. And I'm guessing if it's incest, does that mean it has to be a sister or brother? I believe so. And his father would still show up for his hearing. The court, I want you to be aware of what the penalty is for this charge. You can face no less than 5, no more than 20 years. No more than 20, love it. No more than 20 years. Like, they actually have written into law a maximum sentence for committing aggravated incest on a minor is no more than 20 years. 25 years, that would be too severe. 20, that's okay. And they basically, go through, that you're going to be a sex offender, all these things. Okay. And he pled guilty, and that was it. And that was it. I wish they would have recorded something on the record of the judge reprimanding him, of some victim impact statement, but there's nothing. Then he goes and he files a appeal on the sentence. There's no DNA proving I did it. You piece of trash. Cockroach. And he's going to be free. And he's going to go and, well, he's going to be hanging out with the, he's going to a perfect place for him. So, this is numerous registered sex offenders clustered in one apartment complex. It's kind of funny. On the outside, it appears to be a beacon of hope for military veterans in need, but on the inside, many of those living at the Veteran Lighthouse in Shreveport have some dark past. Many are registered sex offenders. I feel scared. I don't like it. He lives across the street. Yeah, I don't blame you. Imagine living across the street from that place. Chavez found out about his neighbors only after moving in with his wife and 5 children. Can you imagine? Oh my God. Imagine moving somewhere with 5 children and finding out across the street from you is a building of cockroaches. Holy cow. That's my worst nightmare. Those neighbors at the Veterans Lighthouse live in subsidized or low-rent apartments for transitioning or formerly homeless veterans. Can you imagine they also do this? They do this to veterans who are not cockroaches, that they'll mix with then registered sex offenders? Half of them are registered sex offenders. Well, the other half shouldn't be there. What a way to spend your final days with a bunch of roaches. Oof. There's an elementary school 3 blocks away. You can't make it up. There's an elementary school 3 blocks away from this compound. Unbelievable. Great job, Louisiana. You're really doing a great job protecting our kids. Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh, don't worry. There are 16 cameras at every exit and entrance, and a probation officer comes twice per week. Yep, that's really gonna make sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're just happy you're getting a check from the government. We gave them a chance to rehabilitate, and that includes housing, and I feel like I can help, Gibson says, adding that he only allows Tier 1 and Tier 2 sex offenders, those considered the least serious crimes. Yes, Gibson, while you're getting paid hand over fist from the government to house them. Yes, of course, you're really doing this because you care about rehabilitating them. Tier 1 involves sexual contact with another. Tier 2 are repeat offenders or against minors. Tier 3 are the most serious, like forcible. Okay. I don't think my group of 1 or 2 offenders is your biggest nightmare, Gibson. You know, you don't? Well, you're right. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not our biggest nightmare. Tier 3 would be our biggest nightmare, but they're our second biggest nightmare. Why don't you go move in with them if it's not such a big deal? Why don't you go move your kids in with them? Clowns. You know, if you're going to go and take that business and house them, just accept it. Say, you know what? I'm getting paid hand over fist. I want to make the money. I'll do my best to protect it, but don't twist it and spin it around and start saying how it's okay because it's not. Gibson, who is also a music minister at Houghton First Baptist Church, disputes the number of sex offenders. Wow, this landlord is also involved in the first. Well, that's just great. Yeah, but this is real. This is real. Let's see if there's another article. They have this, which is interesting. Sex offender one-stop resource, the state of Louisiana. You can't make it up. It's like sex offender one-stop resource.com. It's wow. Wow, look at that. It's a Gmail. Sex offender one-stop resource at gmail.com. There's enough, there's so many of them there, but that there's actually a business to be made in this like website that hasn't been changed in 25 years. I have housing for sex offenders. This is posted oh, good. It's not, people don't post that often. I see the business hasn't done that well. Well, actually, here it is, March 17, 2023. Need a place in Shreveport or Bossier for my boyfriend. My landlord said he can't stay at my house. He needs some place. Wow, you moron. She writes this at 3:30 a.m. She needs a place for her boyfriend because the landlord says he can't be in the house. Wow. Imagine you're a landlord and you find out, and here she is writing from at 3 in the morning. Anyways, I really do digress. I guess, what am I supposed to say? I guess I'm just relieved that at least he is going to be living in there. Now the other person who we just covered. It's funny how quickly I compared Marvin Willie. So it's actually interesting. He was doing pretty sophisticated, I mean, compared to what we've seen, type of dealing, which was like a little while. I was surprised that he had all those write-ups and things. So he in 1999, a jury convicted him of racketeering violation. He was sentenced as an habitual offender to life imprisonment. Because why not? Wait, do I have the wrong? Oh, this is not. Oh, maybe, you know what? I have the wrong document. That's not who he is. That's why. Is that possible? Maybe his court, it pulled up because his court case. Oh, that, you know, it kind of makes more sense now. Because this was a pretty sophisticated scheme he was doing, and it didn't sound like the scheme, like this guy. So I was like, how is that? You know, it just didn't add up, but probably because I have the wrong link. I think that he must be referenced in here as part of the appeal. Yeah, this is not. So this court hearing was what he was doing was he was actually having women fly around the country and do drops for him, and then he was wiring them money, which, you know, was like the first mistake, I would say. Like, who, you know, why, if you're gonna be doing dealing, why are you wiring money, which is totally trackable. But he was, you know, being very clever. He basically had mules that were doing like a lot of the major dealing for him, and he was eventually caught doing it and given a life sentence. You know, harm a child, whatever, 10 years, do some dealing, marijuana, life sentence, lock him up, throw away the key. But might have been a wrong case, but serves the point. The system does not care that much about our children, but they do care about keeping the devil's lettuce off the streets, which is just totally insane because it's going to be legal in every single state in the United States very soon, and we're going to laugh about how it was illegal, and the history books are going to say, can we believe that we've incarcerated more people than most countries combined in just the state of Louisiana, and many offenses are for marijuana. Oh, that's why we show this stuff. Change can't happen with their head in the sand. With that, I'll let you go.